Your flowers are not failing. Something is eating them, and that something has been quietly deciding what grows in your yard for years, one bite at a time. If you walked outside this week and found your hostas chewed to stubs, your daylily buds gone overnight, or the tops bitten clean off the flowers you were finally proud of, you already know the feeling. You spent the money, you did the planting, and a deer treated it like a buffet you set out on purpose. Here's the part nobody at the garden center mentions. Deer have a menu. There are plants they reach for first, and plants they reach for only when nothing else is left. Most homeowners keep buying off the top of that menu without knowing it. So today we're going to look at 9 plants deer usually walk right past, sorted by where they actually help in a real yard. The sunny front border, the shady edge, the mailbox bed that bakes by the road, the flower bed that keeps getting hit. But before any of that, you need one warning, because it changes how you use every plant on this list. And if you skip it, you'll blame the plant when the real problem is something else entirely. Here it is. Deer resistant does not mean deer proof. No plant is. Every serious source says the same thing. Rutgers, which keeps one of the most used deer rating lists in the country, puts it bluntly: no plant is deer proof. And how well any of these work depends on your local deer numbers and the weather. That is not a disclaimer to wave away. It's the whole game. Think about what resistant actually means. Deer have favorite foods and least favorite foods, just like people. A plant earns its way onto a resistant list because of scent, texture, a bitter or toxic chemistry, or tough foliage that isn't worth the effort. Deer browse by smell and taste, so a strong oniony or herbal scent, a fuzzy or leathery leaf, or a plant that makes them sick is usually enough to send them looking elsewhere. Usually. Not always. Here's when usually breaks down. A hungry deer in a hard winter, or in a neighborhood with too many deer and not enough wild food, will eat things it would normally ignore. Young, soft, new growth gets sampled more than tough, mature foliage. So a plant that is usually ignored once mature can still get nibbled its first spring. And deer learn locally. The herd behind your house may have habits completely different from the herd 2 towns over. A plant that's never touched in New Jersey might get tested in your yard in Pennsylvania. So treat this list the way you'd treat a good umbrella. It handles most of what comes at you. It is not a roof. In heavy deer pressure, the smartest gardeners still pair these plants with the occasional repellent or a little fencing around the things they refuse to lose. With that understood, let's get into plants that genuinely tip the odds in your favor. We'll start with the one almost every extension list agrees on. Number 1, daffodils. If there is a single plant the rating lists rarely argue about, it is the daffodil. Daffodils sit in the rarely damaged category just about everywhere, and the reason is simple and a little dark. Every part of the plant contains licorine, a compound that's mildly toxic and tastes terrible. Deer usually figure that out fast and leave them alone. That same chemistry is one reason rabbits and squirrels are usually less interested in the bulbs, which is why your tulips vanish, but your daffodils come back year after year in the same spot. That toxicity is worth saying out loud because it cuts both ways. Daffodils are poisonous to dogs, cats, and horses too, with the bulb being the worst part. If you've got a dog who digs up anything you plant, keep loose bulbs out of reach and don't let them excavate a fresh bed. For most households, this is a non-issue, but if you've got a serious digger, it's worth knowing before you plant. Where they shine is the front of the house. A drift of daffodils under a window, along a walkway, or around a mailbox gives you weeks of early color in the exact spot deer love to browse in spring. Some gardeners plant them as a ring around tulips and other vulnerable bulbs, using the daffodils as a less tempting outer ring around the plants deer would rather eat. One honest note on timing. Because this video goes out in late June and I will not pretend otherwise, daffodils are a fall-planted bulb. The chewed-up bed you're staring at right now is the reason to put them on your fall list, not something you'll plant this week. They're hardy roughly from zone 3 to zone 9. They want sun or light shade, and once they're in, they ask for almost nothing. Plant them once in October, and you've bought yourself a decade of spring color deer ignore. Now, daffodils solve spring in the sun. What about the shady side of the house, where most of your options seem to get eaten? That's the next one. Number 2. Hellebores. The shaded strip along the north side of a house is where a lot of people give up. Hostas get devoured, impatiens are gone by July, and everything that survives looks tired. Hellebores change that corner. Hellebore, often sold as Lenten rose, is one of the few plants that's both deeply shade-tolerant and reliably left alone by deer. It blooms in late winter into early spring, sometimes pushing flowers up through the last of the snow, when nothing else in the yard is doing anything. The leaves are leathery and evergreen in milder zones, so the plant earns its space even out of bloom. It's hardy from about zone 4 to zone 9. The deer resistance comes from the same place as the daffodils. The plant is toxic and bitter. Hellebore is in the buttercup family, and it's poisonous to dogs, cats, horses, and people. The bitter taste usually stops animals after the first nibble, but I want you to know it's there. Some people even get mild skin irritation handling the leaves, so wear gloves when you cut it back. If you have a toddler who puts everything in their mouth, place it where they won't, the same way you would with any toxic ornamental. Plant hellebores in part to full shade in soil that drains. They're slow to establish, so don't panic in year 1 when they sit there looking unimpressed. By year 3, you'll have a clump that does real work in the hardest spot in your yard. Tuck them along a shaded foundation edge, under a maple, or beside a north-facing porch, and you finally have something in that strip that the deer aren't pruning for you. That covers shade. Let's get back into the sun, into the kind of plant deer will sometimes test, but almost never destroy. Number 3. Bearded iris. Bearded iris is a strange one because the rating lists give it the resistance stamp with a small asterisk, and that asterisk is useful to understand. Iris foliage is tough and sword-shaped, and deer generally dislike those stiff, blade-like leaves. Michigan State's extension notes that deer tend to avoid both the German bearded types and the grassy Japanese types for exactly that reason. So the plant itself is usually safe. Rutgers, though, adds a quiet note. Deer may eat the buds, not the leaves, not the rhizome, just the occasional fat flower bud right before it opens. In low to moderate deer pressure, you'll rarely see it. In heavy pressure, it can happen, and now you know why if it does. Bearded iris belongs in a hot, sunny border. It's hardy through most of the country, roughly zone 3 to zone 9, and it wants full sun and sharp drainage. This is the plant for the dry, baking strip along a driveway or a south-facing front bed where richer, thirstier flowers struggle. Here's the mistake that kills more iris than any deer ever will. People plant the rhizome too deep. That fat, knobby root wants to sit right at the surface, half exposed to the sun, almost like it's sunbathing. Bury it under 2 inches of soil and a thick blanket of mulch, and it rots instead of blooming. So set it shallow, keep mulch off the top of the rhizome, and let it bake. Do that, and you get those big architectural spring flowers in the exact dry, sunny spot most plants hate. If iris gives you spring drama, the next plant gives you something that outlives almost everything else you'll ever put in the ground. Number 4. Peonies. If you've got a flower bed that gets hit every single year and you're tired of treating it like a money pit, The peony is the plant to build around. Peonies are some of the longest-lived perennials in any American yard. There are peonies blooming today that were planted 50 years ago by someone who's long gone. They land in the rarely damaged tier, with the same small asterisk as iris. Deer may sample a bud now and then, but they leave the plant itself alone. So you can anchor a deer-troubled bed with peonies, knowing the structure will still be standing in 20 years. They're hardy from about zone 3 to zone 8. They want full sun, decent soil, and like the iris, they're picky about depth. The growth buds, the little pink eyes on the root, should sit no more than about 2 inches below the surface. Plant them deeper than that and you'll get a healthy green plant that simply refuses to flower year after year, and you'll have no idea why. So shallow is the rule. One tip that saves a lot of heartbreak: those big spring blooms get heavy, and a single rainstorm can flatten the whole plant into the mud. A simple grow-through support ring set over the plant early in spring before it fills in holds the flowers upright through the weather. It disappears under the foliage and does its job invisibly. Quick safety note: since this is a plant people love to cut and bring inside, peony is mildly toxic to dogs and cats if they chew on it. Not in the Daffodil League, but worth knowing if you've got a pet who treats the garden as a snack bar. So far, we've leaned on spring. Let's bring in something that carries color into summer and brings the bees with it. Number 5, ornamental alliums. Picture purple globes floating on tall stems above a tidy clump of foliage, with bees working every flower head. That's an ornamental allium, and it's one of the most dependable deer-resistant flowers you can plant. Allium is the ornamental side of the onion family, and that's its whole defense. The foliage carries the same sulfur compounds that make an onion sharp, and deer, rabbits, and voles all read that scent as not food. Michigan State's Extension recommends them specifically for deer-troubled yards. They're a magnet for bees and butterflies at the same time, so you get the protection and the pollinators in one plant. For an early summer yard right now, the variety worth knowing is one like Millennium, which throws its rose-purple globes in the heat of mid to late summer when a lot of spring flowers have quit. It forms a neat clump instead of seeding all over the place. It's hardy roughly zone 4 to zone 9, and it tops out around knee-high. The bigger, taller alliums like Purple Sensation bloom earlier, in late spring, and give you those dramatic lollipop heads. Mix a couple of types and you stretch the show across the season. Plant them in full sun in soil that drains, repeated in small groups through a sunny front border for the strongest effect. One caution for pet owners: like the daffodil, allium is in the onion family, and onion family plants are toxic to dogs and cats. Most pets won't touch the bitter foliage, but if you've got a determined chewer, place it accordingly. Now let's move to a spot most people overlook completely, and a group of plants that does double duty. Real quick, if this is already saving you a spring of dead plants and wasted nursery trips, subscribing tells the channel to keep making the honest version of these guides, the kind that tells you where a plant actually belongs and where it'll get eaten. That's it, back to the yard. Number 6, culinary sage. Some of the best deer-resistant plants are sitting in the herb section, not the flower aisle. And sage is the one I would start with for most sunny beds. Culinary sage has heavily scented, oil-rich leaves that deer and rabbits tend to avoid. Brush past them and you smell why. That fragrance is doing the same job the daffodil's toxin does, just with a nicer payoff for you, because you can cook with the results. Run a low ribbon of thyme or a row of sage along a walkway edge or the front of a sunny bed, and you get a soft, aromatic border that deer skip and you brush against every time you walk by. Common culinary sage is usually best in full sun, sharp drainage, and leaner soil. Once established, it handles dry conditions better than many soft bedding plants. Thyme can do a similar job as a low edge where the drainage is sharp, But varieties differ, so check the tag. Sage is the cleaner main choice here because it gives you a visible gray-green mound, not just a tiny ground-hugging ribbon. Rosemary is where you have to be honest about your climate, because this is the one people get wrong. Rosemary is only winter hardy in roughly zone 7 and warmer. If you garden in the south or on the west coast, you can grow it as a permanent evergreen shrub, and it's wonderful. North of that, it will not survive a normal winter in the ground unless you grow a cold-hardy cultivar like ARP with protection, and even then it's a gamble. In colder zones, the smart move is to grow rosemary in a pot on the patio and bring it inside before hard frost. Beautiful, fragrant, deer-resistant, but not a plant-it-and-forget-it shrub if your winters bite. So far, we've handled flowers, shade, and herbs. Now let's deal with the spot that defeats a lot of homeowners, the dry, sunny slope. A dry slope in full sun is one of the hardest places to plant. It sheds water, it bakes, and it's a pain to mow. Little bluestem was practically built for it. This is a native prairie grass, and NC State's plant database describes it as highly resistant to deer browsing. That's true of ornamental grasses in general. The fine, silica-stiffened blades are low in nutrition and unpleasant to eat, so deer almost always pass them by. Little bluestem was named Perennial Plant of the Year in 2022. And it earns it. It's hardy from about zone 3 to zone 9. It handles clay, heat, humidity, and even road salt. And once it's established, it's genuinely drought tough. The look is the payoff. Through summer, the stems carry a blue-green, almost silvery cast. Then in fall, the whole plant turns a warm copper orange that holds its color straight through winter, catching low light and moving in the slightest breeze. On a slope, a mass of it reads like a soft, glowing carpet, exactly where you used to fight your mower. It's an easy plant. Give it full sun and decent drainage, and cut it back close to the ground in late winter before new growth pushes up. That's the entire maintenance plan. As a bonus, it's a host plant for several butterflies and a food source for birds, so a dry, useless bank becomes something that's working for wildlife. Little bluestem covers texture and movement. The next plant brings back something we've been missing since spring: real flower color, late in the year. Number 8, Bluebeard. Bluebeard earns its place because it flowers when deer-damaged beds often look thin and tired. Instead of asking another soft annual to carry that sunny corner, this small shrub gives you blue flowers on aromatic foliage deer usually skip. Bluebeard, sometimes labeled blue mist shrub or Caryopteris, is a small deciduous shrub, usually 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. It's in the mint family, and its aromatic foliage is what keeps deer and rabbits away, the same scent-based defense as the herbs. NC State and several extension lists flag it as deer-resistant, and it's drought-tolerant once it settles in. It's hardy roughly zone 5 to zone 9, with the colder end dying back to the ground each winter and resprouting in spring. What makes it special is timing. Those bright blue, fragrant flowers open on late summer growth and pull in bees and butterflies during the stretch when pollinators are hunting hard for food. Pair it with a grass or some black-eyed Susans, and you've got a corner that comes alive exactly when the rest of the yard checks out. 2 mistakes to avoid, because they're the usual ones. Bluebeard wants lean soil and full sun. Plant it in rich, wet ground or feed it too much, and it goes leggy and flops open instead of staying tight and tidy. And it blooms on new wood, so you cut it back hard in late winter, not in fall. Do those 2 things, give it a dry, sunny spot, and it rewards you with the best blue in the yard at the hardest time of year. That brings us to the last plant, and it might be the one that quietly does the most. Most plants disappear in winter. Switchgrass stands up through it, which is exactly why it closes out this list. Switchgrass is a tall native grass that extension sources describe as seldom bothered by deer. Like little bluestem, it's a grass deer just don't find worth eating. It's hardy across a huge range, roughly zone 3 to zone 9, and it tolerates a wide range of soils, from moist clay to lean or sandy ground, once established. There are upright cultivars like Northwind that stay rigid and vertical to 5 feet or so, and shorter blue-toned ones like Heavy Metal if you want something more compact. The reason I'd plant it is the off-season. In summer, it's a clean column of blue-green blades. In fall, it turns gold. And through the whole winter, when your beds are bare, those upright stems and seed heads stand against the snow, catching light, feeding songbirds, and giving the yard some bones when everything else is gone. You leave it standing all winter on purpose and cut it back in early spring. One honest note: in the right conditions, switchgrass can self-seed and travel a bit, so give clumps room and keep an eye on seedlings if you're in a tidy bed. And unlike several plants on this list, switchgrass is not usually treated as a major toxicity concern. But as with any ornamental grass, you still do not want pets chewing large amounts of it. Plant it in full sun. In too much shade, it gets loose and flops. Give it the sun and the space, and you've got a deer-resistant plant that earns its keep in all 4 seasons, especially the one when the rest of the yard has nothing to offer. Before you write any of these down, here's the rule that ties it together, and it'll save you more money than the list itself. Pick the plant for the spot before you pick it for the deer. A deer-resistant plant in the wrong place is still a dead plant. Rosemary in a zone 5 winter. A peony buried too deep. Switchgrass stuck in shade. An iris rotting under wet mulch. None of those failures have anything to do with deer. So start with your reality. What's your zone? Is the spot sun or shade, wet or dry? Then, from the plants that fit, choose the ones deer leave alone. Order matters. Get the spot right first, and let deer resistance be the tiebreaker, not the only box you check. And remember the warning we opened with. These plants tilt the odds. They don't issue a guarantee. In light deer pressure, a yard built on this list can go untouched for years. In heavy pressure or a brutal winter, a hungry deer may still test a bud or a young plant. That's not the plant failing. That's a deer being a deer. I'm curious what you're up against because deer behavior is so local. Drop a comment with the state you're gardening in and the one plant your deer keep destroying no matter what you do. I read these, and the patterns are genuinely useful for figuring out what's worth trying next. Here's the move that pulls everything together. You don't have to surrender the plants you love. Use these 9 as the framework of a bed, the reliable structure deer ignore, and then tuck the things you refuse to give up into the middle of them, surrounded by scent and toughness. A few favorites protected by a wall of plants deer skip is a very different yard than a few favorites sitting out in the open like an offering. That's how you stop replanting the same chewed-up flowers every spring. You stop letting the deer write your plant list, and you start writing it yourself, with your eyes open about what resistant really means. If you want practical plant advice with the caveat included before you spend the money, subscribe. Either way, go take an honest look at your worst-hit bed and pick one plant from today to build it back around. One good choice this season changes what that spot looks like for years.